Alright, today I'm going to be reacting to Hunky Dory by David Bowie. I've heard 2 David Bowie albums at this point. I've heard Black Star and I've heard The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. And The Rise and Fall actually came out a year after this album. I've seen this cover a lot of places. I've heard a lot of great things about this album. Not much else to say. Go join the Patreon if you want to see this reaction uncut. There's a link in the description down below. And we're going to hop into the first track, which is Changes. I like the horns right away.
Waiting for, so I turn myself to face me. I've never caught a
jazzy.
Turn and face the strain.
Wow. What a difference in the vocal mixing.
So the days float through my eyes.
Vocal phrasing feels kind of rambly here.
Don't tell them to grow up out of it.
It's actually quite Beatles-esque.
I said that time may change me. Praise time.
Ooh, I like that. There was jazz undertones building throughout that track, but I like how we just fully lean into it in the outro there. That was great. Kind of reminded me, it felt very Beatles influenced, definitely. The vocal mixing, especially when it got super clean and crisp, reminded me of some of the vocal mixing off of John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band, I think is what it's called. It seems like the lyrics here are kind of alluding to the fact that maybe David Bowie was maybe more of like a colorful, eccentric figure at the time. That's what it seems like to me, at least. Look out, you rock and rollers. Turn and face the strange. Maybe alluding to himself as the strange. I don't know. So far, this doesn't feel as like glam rock as Ziggy Stardust felt from what I remember from that album. At least it's been a while since I've listened to it, but this one feels a little bit more just like traditional kind of singer-songwriter, more acoustic, kind of almost folk instrumentation, maybe just more like straight up pop rock. Next up is Oh You Pretty Things.
I made some breakfast and coffee. Look out my window. What do I see? A hand reaching down to me.
Whoa, really dissonant piano part there.
Written it all by a puzzle man who questioned what we were here for.
Super off kilter, like the piano and the vocals feel very disconnected.
Homo sapiens have outgrown their use.
Interesting scientific language being used here. Homo sapiens, the Homo superior earlier.
Gotta make way for the Homo superior.
Okay. Very interesting track here. Mostly the writing is what I'm finding really interesting here. I mean, musically it was great, but it seems like this is kind of carrying forward the track or the theme from the last track of being averse to tradition in a way, and like Bowie himself kind of wanting to push things forward, you know? Maybe alluding to the fact that the older generations are the Homo sapiens and the new up-and-coming generation is the Homo superior. Just a very interesting angle he's taking so far in these first 2 tracks, but it definitely makes sense. I mean, I don't know the full story of David Bowie and how he was being perceived at this time by the general public, but what I see from the outside, he seems again to be like a very eccentric kind of boundary pushing figure. So it seems like he is grappling with that, the public's pushback of that within this album here. I just love the language of the Homo superior and the Homo sapien, you know? Like it's stripping down that idea into like its most human and raw form. Next track is 8-Line Poem. Ugh. There's kind of a nice phaser effect on that piano. Like on the surface, this track feels very acoustic and raw, but you kind of hear that warbling of the piano. Oh.
Surveys the prairie of you to its collision.
This track feels kind of Dylan-esque. Like, not in an obvious way, but... just the restraint here, too. Oh, I like that slide. Please tell me my Wi-Fi is still working. Okay, we're gonna have to take a break. The Wi-Fi has been going out, like, insane. Like, literally, like, 10 times a day. I mean, I guess I can talk about this track. Well, I'll have to take a little bit of a break before the next track. This is good. This is really good. I like... Again, there was some Dylan, I feel like, spirit of Dylan in that for some reason. Maybe it was just some of the vocal inflections that kind of reminded me of Dylan. Yeah, just really intimate and a lot of restraint shown on that track. Like, you could easily just build that track out and have some, like, big instrumental outro and have it grow and progress and get really loud and over the top. But I like keeping it kind of stripped back here.
It's a god-awful small affair, but her friend is nowhere to be seen. Now she walks through her sunken dream, but the film is a sad thing for to focus on sailors fighting in the dance hall.
Okay, here's that theatrical essence that I was expecting. Oh.
It's on America's tortured brow, 'cause I wrote it 10 times or more. It's about to be writ again. Take a look at the wrong man beating up the wrong guy.
Okay. I mean, there's the kind of theatrical style that I was expecting from this album. We haven't really got it yet until, of course, this track. I don't know why I'm taking the headphones off. That was good. Really like the storytelling here of this person going to the movies, it seems, and then just realizing that the film is, you know, kind of a direct interpretation or recreation of her life, maybe. Yeah, I really like the piano runs and the string embellishments. It kind of made sense how theatrical it got with what the lyrics are talking about here. It almost feels like satirical in a way, a satirical look at art itself. It's interesting how this album is very theatrical and very, we'll say highbrow, but it's also very catchy at times as well, which is a very difficult thing to do. I will be honest, I'm still yet to have like a strong emotional connection to anything I've heard from David Bowie. Sometimes it just takes a while for me to connect with like a vocalist and just an artist in general, and at that moment still hasn't happened for me, but there is no like denying how thought-provoking and how well written this stuff is. So let's keep going. Kooks. I think it's Kooks.
Will you stay in a lover's story? So take a chance with a couple.
This is so like kind of McCartney coded.
If you stay, you won't be sorry, 'cause we believe in you. I bought you a pair of shoes.
Is that Bowie like playing the piano? I'm curious.
But I'm not much cop at punching other people's dads. Soon you'll grow, so take a chance with a couple of kooks.
That was good. Felt with like what the lyrics are about here, I felt like it should have been a little bit more, it should have leaned into the humor of this a little bit more. Like, it's obviously him writing a song to his son, and it seemed like maybe taking the angle of like, you know, embracing like having a strange childhood in a way. That's what it seemed like to me. You know, if he's singing to his son, like, I hope you're as mad and as eccentric as me. Or maybe he's just saying that they're so lovesick, you know, hung up on romancing, that they are kind of mad, you know, kind of kooks. I don't know. I just felt like it should have leaned into those eccentricities a little bit more. But not terrible, just one that I feel like it could have been executed in more of an interesting way. We'll keep going though. Quicksand is next.
I'm closer to the golden dawn of imagery.
Like that vibrato there.
A sacred realm of dream reality.
Whoa, I like these lyrics. Sacred realm of dream reality. What a combination of words.
Oh, the ragged hoe, and I ain't got the power.
Oh, the dynamics.
No, I ain't got the power. Yet I guess the viper's back.
Oh,
I'm sinking in the quicksand.
that was so
of
punchy.
my thought.
Woo! The cello?
In yourself, don't deceive.
Whoa. This is easily my favorite.
Knowledge comes with death's release. If I don't explain what you want to know.
Damn.
Knowledge comes with death's release.
What a powerful, like, internal dialogue on this track. You know, this whole don't believe in yourself, don't deceive with belief, knowledge comes with death's release. You have the potential Superman line, the idea of potential and the idea of like a younger generation that has been talked about on this album previously. He does mention, you know, the usage of Homo sapien, of that language again. I'm tethered to the logic of Homo sapien. Very interesting track. It feels like, you know, being kind of weighed down by people's expectations for you, knowing that you have, you know, potential and that you have great things in store for yourself. But also this idea of not being able to fully reach that until death. You know, the idea that like death is gonna bring some sort of level of understanding to you. Very complicated track with a lot of feelings going on. Again, that kind of like internal dialogue style of writing. Very introspective. This was easily my favorite just because, I don't know, the other tracks felt like they actually could have been a little bit longer, and this one has been the longest so far, 5 minutes. And it just really, as the track went on, you know, the picture that he was trying to paint got clearer and clearer for me. Next track is Fill Your Heart.
Oh, forget your mind and you'll be free.
So much of this album is just being burdened by like your own thoughts. It's kind of exhausting.
If you choose, just remember, lovers never lose. 'Cause
This is another track that feels kind of satirical in a way. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
happiness is happening. Dragons have been bled.
It feels like fake confidence, you know? It's like just saying these affirmations over and over, even though you know it's not the case. I love that. Whoa, what a transition. Oh my god. Okay, maybe that track isn't like satirical. Maybe it's just my very negative mind state right now that's making me look at it that way. Because it did have me smiling, it had me moving along, it had me feeling good. And honestly, I kind of do like the idea of this being more just like truthful and honest in that way, of just wanting to free yourself of overthinking in a way, and just the idea of gentleness clears the soul, love cleans the mind and makes it free. Actually, the more I read these lyrics, like the more it feels more sincere than what I initially thought. The reason I thought it was a little bit satirical was because of the way he says free, or the way he sings free. It just felt a little bit like too over the top, to where it feels like he's kind of mocking it in a way. I don't know. Maybe you can take it both ways. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's a good song at the end of the day. That's all that really matters. It is kind of interesting how that's like one of the least streamed on this album. Goes to show that maybe just people are generally very unhappy. Let's keep going. Andy Warhol is next. Andy Warhol, of course, a famous artist, visual artist. I think he did that one Velvet Underground cover, right? And I remember learning about him in university of like, I don't remember, was it pop art? Is that the style? Yeah, I remember seeing those like Marilyn Monroe like paintings. So yeah, Andy Warhol. We know who he is.
It's Warhol, actually.
What did I say?
Hole.
Oh. Kind of a Western feel to this guitar here.
But the people in my brain too new pants to have a go. Andy walking, Andy tired, Andy take a little snooze.
Are we abducting Andy Warhol here?
Andy Warhol looks a scream, hang him on my wall.
Oh. Oh my god. This is ugly. In the best way possible. What an interesting track. I don't really know what to make of the lyrics here. The chorus is really interesting. Andy Warhol looks a scream, hang him on my wall. Talking about his paintings. Andy Warhol silver screen. The silver screen is like, you know, referencing or alluding to movies, right? Can't tell them apart at all. Did he, like, was he a director? Or did he? Oh yeah, it looks like he did. He made some black and white experimental films. Apparently they're extremely slow moving. The best example is probably Empire, an 8-hour-long take of the Empire State Building. It is so you can barely tell it apart from a painting. Interesting, okay. Oh, apparently actually, okay, whoa. Bowie played this song to him, and apparently Andy Warhol hated it, but it looks like they were kind of like friends after that. And it looks like Bowie played him in a biopic too. What the heck? I did not know about all this lore, all this drama between David Bowie and Andy Warhol. Interesting. I mean, it doesn't feel like straight up like a diss towards Andy Warhol. It just feels like more so an interesting commentary on art itself, I guess. And it's not one of my favorites, because it does feel a little bit too like niche in that way, to the point where like if you don't know about Andy Warhol or care about him, it's kind of like, you know. We'll keep going. Another reference to another very popular figure. This next track is Song for Bob Dylan.
I hear this Robert Zimmerman.
He sounds so much like Lennon right now. What the heck? It's that vocal mixing.
Here she comes again. She'll scratch this world to pieces as she comes on like a friend. Then we lost your train of thought. Your paintings are all your own.
I know I'm not like, I feel like I'm not as being as animated as I usually am, you know, reacting to different certain like musical elements during this album, but the writing is just really interesting to me right now, to the point where I'm just like reading the lyrics here and just really getting lost in them. Yeah, this track feels like kind of like a passing of the torch kind of situation, you know. This looks like around this time was when Bob Dylan's motorcycle crash was, and apparently after that he kind of wasn't in the public eye for a while. So this has Bowie kind of, I guess, yearning for him to come back, tell him we've lost his poems, so we're writing on the walls, give us back our unity, give us back our family, you know, really painting the picture of him almost like being like a savior to people at the time. And then, you know, it seems like Bowie himself is like, if Dylan doesn't come back, he can kind of, you know, carry that torch forward of, you know, being a more kind of colorful figure and pushing boundaries within rock. Let's keep going. Queen Bitch is next. Oh my.
Oh yeah. Down on the street and just try hard to boost the flow.
I feel like we needed kind of just like a punchy banger like this.
She's so swishy in her satin and tie.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, the switch up in the chorus here is crazy. That was great. That feels like one of the more like straightforward tracks instrumentally. And it was really the first track where I didn't listen to the lyrics really at all or pay attention to them at all. And I will say, I feel like that's when I enjoy music the most, is when I enjoy the actual music itself. Every track before this has been interesting to me, and there's been a lot to chew on. And don't get me wrong, there's been musical parts that I enjoyed. But in terms of something that I'm like, I'm going to come back to and just play for fun, you know, this is like the first track that I feel like I'm actually going to do that. Which isn't, again, it isn't to say that the previous tracks were bad. They just serve a different purpose than this track does. What a riff. What a switch up in the chorus. So much fun. It feels like kind of in the context of the track list, it also makes sense. It feels like there's, you know, if the last track was him talking about the passing of the torch and maybe taking on the role of, like, you know, that guy in rock music, it feels like that track, the track we just listened to, is kind of like a celebration in a way of just having a lot of fun. Last track, the Bewlay Brothers.
And so the story goes, they wore the clothes, they said the things to make it seem improbable. Sang the swirl through the streets like the crust of the sun. If you
There's that rambly vocal delivery I'm talking about.
standing tall in the dark.
Man, you just do not get dynamics like this in, like, current day, you know, mainstream music. It's so sad. I mean, you do, but it's not as common as it used to be. I'm struggling to figure out what's going on
Now
here.
the Bewlay Brothers. If we were so turned on. Lie me, place and bake me. Just for the night.
Oh, this is kind of demonic. What the? Dude, the different pitching of these vocals is interesting, because I was thinking, like, all those different voices in the outro here, it kind of feels like, you know, it's painting a picture of, like, schizophrenia in a way. And then I scroll down at Genius, the first word I see is schizophrenia. So it feels like maybe that's a theme of this track here. The Mind Warp Pavilion, that combination of words stuck out to me. Bowie has such a skill of, like, observing the world and observing, like, things that we think of as normal and really, like, highlighting the absurdity of it, and doing so in a very, you know, the language that he uses is very colorful, and it really, like, again, highlights that absurdity in a really effective way. Like, if he was just saying, if the vocabulary used here was just even a little bit more normal or bland, it really would not work or hit as hard. Again, I don't really know what this track is about as a whole, but I don't feel like I really need to. It feels like one of those tracks that I will dig into in the future, and it will maybe certain things will pop out at me. This album in general, like, it's, like I said, one of those albums that I don't think I'll really return to that much, except for Queen Bitch. That's a banger. But it's not to say that it's bad. Like, some of my favorite albums of all time are albums that I really don't replay that often. But this is a very, you know, there's a lot to chew on in the lyrics here. That's all I'm going to say. The writing here is very, again, colorful. I love how colorful the language is. It feels like it's taking, you know, the spirit of Bob Dylan, as he mentioned on Song for Bob Dylan, carrying that spirit and that essence forward. There's also elements here that feel very Beatles, you know, adjacent. Also, Joni Mitchell is a name that came to mind. And I think, what year is Court and Spark? That's the 70s, right? Court and Spark is? I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, 74. So that's, 3 years after this album. The style of writing in like how theatrical it is and how malleable the instrumentals are, how they'll just kind of like morph around what the vocalist is doing and what the lyrics are doing. It's not like a traditional kind of instrumental in a way where it's like verse, chorus, pre-chorus, chorus, you know, that kind of thing. It more so is, again, like that linear kind of theatrical structure to it, where if Bowie's singing about a certain emotion or trying to convey a certain emotion, the instrumental is going to go into something completely different, and it's going to try and like elevate what he's writing about. So it feels similar to like Court and Spark by Joni Mitchell in that way. Obviously, Joni Mitchell's, it's a different style for sure. Like, there's different things about it, but it kind of has that same idea of that theatrical kind of, you know, song structure, I guess. So yeah, really, really interesting album. Those are my thoughts. I don't really have organized thoughts right now, but yeah, let me know any thoughts you guys have down below, any insights. I always love to read the comments, so let me know. And make sure to leave a like, subscribe, go join the Patreon if you want to see this reaction uncut. There's a link in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.